In tonight's headlines, Restore Belize discusses its progress, the Belize Police Department launches National Crime Fighting Strategy, and city resident takes initiative for new park. These stories and more on this week's edition of Belize Now. Thanks for joining us on this Friday, February 9, 2018. I am Erin Guzman. Alongside the Minister of State in the Ministry of Home Affairs, Honorable Elodio Aragon, and his CEO, retired Colonel George Lovell, the Commissioner of Police, Alan Wiley, launched the Belize Police Department's National Crime Fighting Strategy. At the gathering on Tuesday, February 6th, the Commissioner shared details of the document.
There are 4 salient goals. Our priorities are the reduction of murders and gang violence in Belize City and across the country, prevention, interdiction, and successful prosecution of criminals, and the restoration of public confidence. And our priorities will be achieved through the following: to reduce gun-related crime, target and dismantle criminal gangs through legislative reforms, through the strengthening of the Professional Standards Branch, and the implementation of a systematic video surveillance program for Belize City.
As noted by the Commissioner, the Department will implement a video surveillance program. Through this program, the Department will enlist the support of the community in its crime-fighting strategy.
Businesses and households will be encouraged to sign up to become a part of the camera surveillance program. I am pleased to reiterate that the government has set aside money that will be utilized as a tax credit. I believe it's $1,000 for the year for any businesses who signs up to the Belize Police Department program and agrees to purchase specific cameras that are compatible to our surveillance program that we are currently conducting. And I would want to encourage businesses to come on board, help to protect their own businesses, assist in the public program of security, and also they will receive a tax credit, as I indicate, of $1,000 to be a good corporate citizen.
Minister Aragon says that work has been ongoing in the department and he expects to see reduction in major crimes as the strategy is fully rolled out.
There are 2 incidents of crimes that is a burden to the department: the murders and the robberies. So those are 2 areas we have to focus on, and I think a lot of this plan in terms of the formulation of the task force and going after these people, along with the legislative reform, speaks highly of us looking and tackling the issue. Of course, the incorporation of cameras will help and address not only those crimes, but also crimes in general, and create a greater sense of safety and security for the community. And I think that is one of the most important things that we want to achieve with this plan.
The police department's new strategy will complement efforts of organizations such as Restore Belize, which was established in 2010 in response to rising crime rate in Belize. Belize Now found out how the program has impacted lives and achieved its goal since its inception 8 years ago.
Promoting citizen security through inclusive, multi-sectoral, and citizen-centered action. That's the mission of the Restore Belize program. Throughout its years of operation, the program has been successful in creating opportunities for collaborative action, establishing public-private partnerships to transform the lives of children and families at low socioeconomic levels, those exposed to gang-related environments, and low overall academic performance. Mary Vasquez, director of Restore Belize, told us more about their work over the past 8 years.
We have, in that time, worked in a very focused way towards our specific mandates, which were to promote collaborative action, to coordinate activities that contribute to citizen security, and to mobilize new resources.
Restore Belize also had another role, which was to create innovative programs to fill the gaps in the services they provide.
In terms of the innovation, the programs that we've designed have really taken a new approach to service delivery. We have been child-centered, and in doing that we have actually developed models for service delivery that we are now working to expand.
One of those innovative programs is called the Metamorphosis Program for Building Resiliency in High-Risk Male Children. The program focuses on young boys ages 10 to 14 years in Belize City who are at high risk of being recruited by gangs or dropping out of school.
It looks at what is called the Human Ecological Framework, which identifies services and influences in a child's life based on the family, the school, the greater society. And so we identify the risks that children face in all those arenas, and then we introduce services that mitigate those risk factors. So it's a very holistic program. It provides wraparound services to these children and to their families.
The Metamorphosis program has been implemented since 2012 and is in its third cohort. Vasquez said that the program is being documented because the plan is to expand its reach.
We are creating tools that schools and social workers can use to help to serve these children better. So we're taking all that information now and we're using it to help children way beyond the scope of the program that we have.
Services within the Metamorphosis program includes counseling, mentorship, group retreats, remedial academic support, and sporting activities. Other programs by Restore Belize include the I Am Belize Scholarship Program, Computer-Assisted Learning, Beat a Pan Not a Man program, conflict mediation, and Peace in the Parks. Restore Belize functions mainly as a coordinating body and therefore relies heavily on its partnerships with the public and private sectors, local and international organizations, and civil society for the implementation and success of its projects.
We look at the relationship with our donors as more like a parallel type of relationship. They're cooperative, they're based on shared values, and they're mutually beneficial. An example of this is our relationship with the agencies under the I Am Belize Scholarship Program, whereby we provide a 4-year high school education for poor and needy students.
Restore Belize partners with the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, Belize Electricity Limited, Belize Water Services Limited, Atlantic Bank, and Atlantic Insurance Company for the funding of the scholarship program. They have also received a grant from the Development Finance Corporation in 2017. Bradley said another partnership they have is with UNICEF, which provides funding for several programs.
What we have in common with UNICEF is the fact that we are here to promote children's rights. We are here to promote the development, the social, economical, and emotional development of our children. The whole idea is to ensure that our children get as much in terms of social, economic benefits from our programs.
Vasquez said that their child-centered approach and the expansion of their service delivery is to secure a wider impact on their beneficiaries and ensure that those children and families, especially those living in the midst of gang violence, can take full advantage of the services.
We need to focus on investments in a child's life early on in the child's life, instead of waiting until that human being is a statistic or that human being is already holding a gun.
We'll have more stories after the break. Stay with us.
The San Ignacio-Santa Elena Bypass project is now complete. The transformation began in 2012, and now residents of the Twin Towns and visitors alike are enjoying the end result. Works include the full pavement of Lemalus Boulevard, along with 2 miles of sidewalks and drainage, LED lighting, and a roundabout at the entrance of Santa Elena. The Twin Towns now boast the longest and widest bridge in Belize, immune to flooding from the occasional rise in water levels of the McCall River. A bypass road was also built linking the new bridge to Joseph Andrews Drive, which was rehabilitated, as well as 1 mile of pavement, a median, and 2 miles of sidewalks and drainage. This was all done to the tune of $34.8 million. But that's not all. The project was extended due to savings from the successful execution and implementation of the initial scope of works. Now over 2 miles of additional roadworks will commence, including George Price Avenue, Liberty Avenue, and the George Price Highway between Three Flags and Hawksworth Bridge. The government of Belize, moving Belize forward.
Punta Gorda Town now has a modern multi-purpose sporting facility thanks to the government of Belize. The brand new complex is double the size of the prior venue, and some of the features include a FIBA certified wooden court with padding underneath, seating capacity for 1,000, changing rooms, locker rooms, and offices. This $3.4 million investment in the town of Punta Gorda is being heralded by the residents of PG.
I feel very excited because this is first time a port like this is built in PG.
This is a big achievement for the town because we have a lot of the youths there where they come out and want to play ball the same way. And this just put up on another level.
A lot of youths can't even wait to play on the new court because it's so official and it's something new to PG, in a whole.
I have to thank the government of Belize because then they look out for PG,
The government of Belize, moving Belize forward.
Residents, especially children of the Givenot Street area, now have a park to call their own thanks to a true tripartisan collaboration between citizens, businesses, and the Belize City Council. Belize Now's Andrew Pitts tells us more.
The story of the new Charlie Burton Park is one that begins with an unsightly, abandoned property on Givenot Street. The person living next door, Mr. Anthony G. Michael Reed, decided to take the lead and do something about it. The results? Spectacular.
Well, I live next door, so I kept looking out and seeing just bush, swamp. And then also saw children playing on the street. Every time they try to fly on kite or they try to play chase or something, they always dodging the cars and putting themselves in danger. So I got with a few of the neighbors and we decided to sign a petition and see if we couldn't establish something here where number one they could play and number two we could clear up the area. I then pulled up Chester Williams, who became actively involved, and I must give him a lot of propers for getting it going. We then together approached the mayor. The mayor was instrumental really because he came out firsthand, looked at the place and decided yes, that's a good idea, let's go with this. We then went to Cisco from Francis Woods from Cisco Construction, who jumped on it immediately. And before I knew it, one morning I looked out and a bulldozer was pushing a bush and they were dumping dirt in there. And I'm saying, well, it looks like we're going to get moving.
And indeed, the park got moving. Over the course of the following weeks, more residents and companies came on board and the park began developing. After being asked to paint a sign for the park, commercial artist Rafael Rodriguez fell in love with the project and came on board, contributing his talents to create beautiful educational displays in the park. He told us more.
I said, you know what? I have a piece of board. I'm not doing nothing, so I come up with this concept with this sign here that is on the front for Charlie Burton Park. And I delivered it to him, and he said that was what motivated the whole idea. Like, you know what, I already have the sign, now we have to get the park. We started with Louis per feet, and then he come up with a concept that we should do people that are in relation to Belizean culture and history, and then we did Mr. Philip Wilson, and then we had to do Mr. George Price afterwards, and then after that we just start getting Mr. Jenkins, the family, he was a part of history too, and we did the Three Kings and Lester and Celia Young. And just say that it's happened, and I suggest to him that we have a lot of people that we could feature in this park, make it a historical park for informative historical park.
The painting of notable Belizeans and national symbols on the benches is a prominent feature in the park. Reed thanked the individual sponsors who made the paintings possible.
And all of them, we did things that would serve to educate the children, like the national symbols of Belize, these people who have contributed to the development. Mrs. Faber Usher from First Choice, she got the first two. The AG, Michael Perifit, he got one. The Jenkins girls, the beautiful former queens of the Bay, Miss Vanessa Jenkins and Mrs. Diane Fuller, Jenkins Young, of course, they came on board and they got one. My friend Norman Fairweather from the States, he got one for his father, who was one of the first people, the first commandants of the British Honduras Home Volunteer Guards. And then a kind lady from down south, Miss Beatrice Garbutt, she got one. So we actually have 8 benches that were sponsored. And I decided we couldn't leave the set incomplete, so I just put the other one, and hopefully we'll get eventually somebody to, sponsor the other one.
Reed told us how the park has been received by the residents of the area so far, and also shed some light on the history behind the park's name.
It's amazing because, first of all, we've had nothing but support from all the neighbors around. They're happy that the park is here. The children, like I said, they, particularly on a Sunday and Saturday when school is in, and for the last couple of weeks they've been using the park, and I think that's the biggest gratification, that it is being used. I'd like to give some acknowledgement to the gentleman who initially owned this property, because I knew him well. His name is Charlie Burton, and he lived on the front street, and I grew up on the front street, so we were neighbors. He had a shop. In his later days, he worked all his life for the Public Works Department. He used to drive the heavy equipment on the street. But he was a guy who you couldn't walk into his store without shirt. You had to conduct yourself. You couldn't cuss no bad word wrong. So Charlie Burton was a man who I think is a perfect model for this park, and who I think would be proud to know that his legacy is being used for the good of children, and for as a place where children can come out and spend some quality time and enjoy themselves.
While the park is already being enjoyed, Reed says there is still more work and assistance required.
We might have to raise the level a bit, because when it rains we get some flooding. I'd also like to see a walkway around the perimeter so that children can ride their bike, or even folks like myself could walk out and get a little exercise. We also want to maybe put a little area in the back where they can play football.
As mentioned, many people, including anonymous donors, contributed to the success of the park. Reed expressed his thanks.
I'd also like to thank all the people who have contributed. There are many from abroad and some from Belize. Habet and Brothers Habet were instrumental. The people at Mejia Construction, Carla Hart and her siblings, who was big in it. I also need to tell you that Dean Samuels, the counselor, I have a gentleman, Michael Lindo, and his wife Julie Lindo in New York, and of course big up Cisco from Francis Woods from Cisco Construction.
According to Reed, his biggest hope is that the park is able to serve as a model for other neighborhoods, inspiring the development of additional parks and playgrounds throughout the country. For Belize Now, I am Andrea Pitts.
Persons interested in assisting with the further development and expansion of the park may contact Reed at 615-6436. The government of Belize will soon be receiving $800,000 from the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria to support Belize's efforts in fighting malaria. Belize is one of 9 member states of the Council of Ministers of Health of Central America and the Dominican Republic, COMISCA, that signed on to a regional malaria elimination effort in 2014. Targets were set up by the Global Fund and PAHO, with the Global Fund being the primary funder, and activities started in 2015. The Global Fund operates on a cash reward system, so the already predetermined reward is based on whatever the country had invested in activities to meet its targets. We heard more from the Ministry of Health.
Around December, I think November, December last year, they informed us that first quarter this year they should be wiring the transfer of $800,000 to continue the fight against malaria in the country. That will continue into phase 2 of the project, which will start this year, somewhere around, I believe, probably around mid-year, and it will be funded jointly by the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, along with Global Fund and PAHO.
Bautista said that since the project was implemented in 2015, Belize has been consistent in reaching its targets and is one of the countries leading the way in doing so.
Since then, we developed a plan for malaria elimination, targeting the year 2020, and every year we had an external team coming into the country and looking at our records and basically validating statistics that we report to PAHO. The last validation was done in late 2016, and based on those results, they determined that the country had met its targets. Some countries are ahead of the game: Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and it will be almost similar process where the country needs to put in its investment. The IDB and the Global Fund will give us a little bit of financial assistance, and then based on those results, there's a cash reward system as well. So the project continues.
Although Belize is ahead of the game, as Bautista puts it, there is still work to be done before the 2020 target year.
Last year we had, I believe it was 9 cases. Out of that, about 7 were local. We had 2 imported cases, meaning travelers coming into the country. I believe as of this year, there were only about 3 villages in the country which still had transmission of malaria. So we've been working recently with PAHO to do some micro-planning, as they refer to it, where we sit down and we really go into some detail looking at those communities and sort of fine-tuning our plans as we move forward.
According to the Ministry of Health, Belize reached its peak in malaria cases in 1995 with over 9,000 cases. Stay tuned for more stories after the break.
Residents of Dangriga now have their very own brand new modernized multi-purpose complex, compliments of the government of Belize. This $3.5 million investment in the cultural capital will host sporting events, cultural events, and shows, and can double as a hurricane shelter. Features include seating for 1,000, a fully FIBA certified wooden court, locker rooms with full bathrooms, a stage and changing rooms backstage, concession stands, office space, and ample parking. The government of Belize, moving Belize forward.
The Philip Goldson Highway between Belize City and the Philip Goldson International Airport is getting a major facelift to the tune of $31.5 million. Section B of the highway upgrading project between Hallover Bridge and the Buttonwood Bay Boulevard roundabout is underway at an investment of $21 million. Works consist of the full rehabilitation of the road to paved standard, which includes the widening of the road to 4 lanes, lined sidewalks and drains, wide shoulders, median, and parking, plus a bus lane at designated sections of the road. LED road lighting will be installed along with road safety features such as signs, reflectors, and road markings. The project will also facilitate in the improvement of underground infrastructure for the public utility companies. The Government of Belize, moving Belize forward.
From February 5th to 6th, representatives from various government and non-governmental organizations, the private sector, academia, and individuals associated with disaster risk management and oil spill response met at the Belize Biltmore Plaza Hotel as a part of a national consultation process to review and make recommendations to improve a working draft of the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. Maxine Monsanto, Environmental Officer at the Department of Environment, shared the objective of the workshop with us.
This workshop is the second in a series of workshops that the department is hosting as part of the consultancy to update the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. During the first workshop, the objective was to introduce the consultant to stakeholders, to begin the process of identifying the data that's needed and how they will go about collecting that data. And between last year, September, when that workshop was held, and today, they've basically been collecting and compiling data and putting together a draft document with standard operating procedures, maps, and procedures as to the way forward in responding to an oil spill. This workshop itself is presenting what they have put together to date. It is still a working draft. The objective over the next 2 days is to get feedback from the stakeholders, specifically the primary responders to an oil spill, of where there are still gaps, because we do know there are still some gaps, where they can improve on the data and make the document more robust so that we are better able to respond to an oil spill.
The Department of Environment commenced implementation of the consultancy to update and align the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan of Belize in August of last year. Elliot Taylor, Principal and Senior Scientist, Polaris Applied Sciences, and consultant for the plan, spoke to us about the significance of its development.
The development of a national oil spill contingency plan is a basic ingredient in terms of a government having defined clearly how they will address spills, how they're going to work as a group and team, the relationship between different agencies, ministries, departments, and how they collectively will work together to respond quickly and efficiently to a spill event.
The updating of the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan is part of the DOE's commitment to the protection of our environment, pollution control, and disaster management response. A delegation from the United Arab Emirates Caribbean Renewable Energy Fund is in Belize to meet with the Ministry of Public Service, Energy and Public Utilities and village leaders for the implementation of the Empower Rural Electrification Project, Empower Project. The Empower project envisions to install 334 kilowatts of solar photovoltaics and battery storage in rural villages that currently do not have access to the national electricity grid. The villages selected are Indian Creek, Golden Stream, and Medina Bank. The project is estimated to cost $2.736 million. Approximately 3,500 households in Belize do not have access to the national grid, with a total population of about 20,000 people. Under the Belize Growth and Sustainable Development Strategy, the government of Belize has as one of its objectives the achievement of the universal access through a strategic mixture of the expansion of national electricity grid and the implementation of renewable technologies in microgrids and standalone solutions. And that's it for this edition of Belize Now. If you want to provide feedback or send in your comments, Please feel free to email us at info@pressoffice.gov.bz or visit our Facebook page and let us know what you think. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week. Until next time.